The major problem I see right now with the current defunding of the police, the socialist free housing, and the insistence for services in Seattle, Washington, as an example now, has to do with the police officer showing up from the woman across the hall who called him the other day, now, who's making friends with her black African-American neighbor, a woman, along with other women, including the building's manager, landlord, the support staff in the office who's from some three-lettered word SSH or support, but doesn't really say much other than with her eyes and her face and her gaze. Has to do with this insistence to observe, to learn, to watch, and restrict. But also saying no more enforcement, no more law, no more justice for the human who's not neutral physically, who's spiritually Buddhist and not from a place out east with the service animal, and doesn't walk around smoking cigarettes and just casually glancing. I'm up against a world here in Seattle, Washington, in this building with the services they are replacing the Seattle Police Department with now. And instead of that officer showing up at my door from the person down the hall who chose to stare and video, while I was confused and disoriented and mistakenly singing in the hallway where there's an echo. There's a disaster occurring now. When the sweet African-American black woman says to me after I wrote a heartfelt note, apology accepted, and the 911 calling victim walks around in terror, afraid, and does not respond other than to give what she knows about money to receive, benefits to apply for now. I've been silenced, I've been shut up, and I'm possibly homeless now for not recognizing quick enough I'm hallucinating. Not from some drug, not from the alcohol the man down the hall who she's friends with and interacts with calmly consumes on nearly a daily basis with his bag fulls of groceries thrown in the dumpster room, next to the garbage bin, spilled out on the floor with Pabst Blue Ribbon and his cigarette tobacco, smoking outside, staring as anyone walks in who's as dangerous now as I am now. The scary part has to do with the police that were called, and not the courtesy to find out what the heck was going on with that guy making that sound from some decision made because Apple Music put Tupac Shakur on my start page. And I began a music rendition of what it was like in the 90s to see on the news what's happening now in the world, and especially here in Seattle, Washington, now. And the police showed up like I'm doing now. Below the camera that they had on their chest, out of sight, with white gloves, a confused person with the people who are supposed to help the person that's having a problem and making the distraction, the confusion, the hallucination more intense. Maybe preparing the person for the eventual homelessness on the streets. Where the intelligent problem-solving person gets shoved into the group of angry and violent meth addicts and crack-selling fentanyl heroin users who smoke plenty of cigarettes and tobacco and get packs and packs to puff. There's so much insistence on visual observation and so much verbal description and requirements to be quiet, so a person's ears don't get a ringing, a boisterous loudness to interrupt their routine. Who deny disruption as failure, suffering, depression, and insanity. And the most tragic part about this whole description now has to do with the begging in my eyes, in my face, in my hands. And the evidence available about what I'm doing now, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of dollars spent each month on a textbook students in school read now. Disregarded in this place with these women and these powerful and strong men who defend and conquer alongside are the discrepancy. To make someone like me work so hard to the point of having a stroke and going hungry, having no taste anymore to eat their calories. They consume in their kitchens with their methods and their processes. There's no language, no ethnicity and dialect, and no words to describe for the simplicity of my skin color, my race, they say now. In my male gender, called inappropriate now. To help the woman and the girl and the lady to make the homosexual, gay, queer, LGBTQ, so on and so forth, live a good life. To have a place for the cigarette smoking, liquor addicted, fire clicking, beer guzzling, tall and masculine and vicious inhabitant who's so alive and so beloved by his fellow citizens. He doesn't have to read about neuroscience and neurology, doesn't have to get ready for quantum wave mechanics with the potential eviction from a landlord who has said when the 10-day notices exceed the limit, there's nowhere else to live. Given me the instructions to die and face my death with the rope around my neck and the noose hanging from their earth, to not have to go get abused anymore on the streets where they throw people out, where they say, oh, go pitch a tent, go poop in the little porta potty, and talk to the Christians once in a while to get some food, and listen to what that thug gangster drug dealer demands. And you'll be fine. You'll live to be 40. You'll die from lung cancer. You'll get obese and get diabetes. And the police will leave you alone because the city council support the behavior in the world. Staring and now, with hands flying all over the place, they solve no problems. They're the consciousness described in these kinds of life, where people no longer are excited and fascinated and energetic about helping, making children not have cancer anymore now, not having to get in trouble in a housing building with no other options available now. And having to get ready for suicide in their madness. There's no end to this destruction now. There's no conclusion. There's only a continuing problem being exploited as stimulation, social friendships, money, dollars and cents, places for people to work for the government to hand out stuff for the people who live in their jurisdiction now. Musicians and artists who can't say a word out loud and can't make a painting that would make someone cry or tear up from the emotion stuffed inside of the skin and the flesh and buried in the silent quiet now.